Okay, yeah. Right. So, I already have an account on GitHub. So, the first thing we should do is, if you want to start, so just try and sign up on GitHub. It's pretty easy and straightforward. So, let me just sign into my GitHub. It sends me a code because I have two-factor authentication enabled on my GitHub. So it sends me code. Okay. So here's my GitHub. I have a lot of relevant things there anyway. So yeah. So once you just sign into your GitHub. And so before I go on, I believe you already have an understanding of what GitHub is all about. GitHub is just a Git repository, okay? It's a Git repository where you can keep all your code, and all. Okay, let me quickly do a brief explanation. We have Git. Git is a tool for managing source code. It's an example of source code management system. That's Git. That's for managing code. And one of the platforms that you can easily use, cloud platform that helps you in managing your source code. They run the remote server where you can keep your code, and manage your code using Git. An example of them is GitHub. We also have other example, which is GitLab. Okay, so now talking about Git, we have two examples of source code management system. We have one decentralized, and then we have another one, the distributed. So what makes one distributed and what makes one centralized? What make one a centralized one is in the sense like you have your source code management system on a single server. Like it doesn't you can only work on it from a single server. Like let's say for an instance now, if you have server A, if you have server B, so what you want to deploy on server A, for you to deploy it on server B, you have to copy it manually and take it to server B to be able to deploy it. That's what makes it centralized. Okay, you copy everything, all the source codes, you manage all the tools, everything, you copy it and move it to server B. That's manually. But distributed is everybody can work on it at the same time. You have multiple versions of Git repository, and everybody are working on it at the same time. And please, T, can you mute? T, please, can you mute? So everybody can work on it at the same time. It helps you to manage the versioning, sync the code, help you avoid conflict and all. So that's the difference between centralized and distributed. So Git that we are working with is an example of distributed, that you don't have to do any manual copying. There are some commands you can just run to get a version of a code on another version. They call it a remote version on your local machine. Okay, so when you're talking about remote, one of example of remote server we are talking here now is GitHub. Okay, so GitHub actually has a server that helps you in managing your distributed source code management. So that's GitHub. So this is GitHub now. GitHub in this scenario now, we are going to be referring GitHub as our remote. Okay, so our EC2 instance is going to be our local. Remote repository. GitHub is going to be our remote repository. Okay, you know what a repository means? Repository is just where you keep your code. Oh, why? Next class I'll try and buy Premium. Yeah. So a repository is where you keep your code, right? So GitHub is an example of a remote repository, and your EC2 instance, we are going to make your EC2 instance your local repository. Okay, so now let's start. For us to get started, the first thing we need to do is we need to install Git on our local server. So if you're working on Windows anyway, you can easily just start Git for Windows. You can download, but for this class we are going to be using our EC2 instance. And if you're working with
you are muted.
What?
I think it's Git Bash, right? Git
Wait,
Bash.
since when have I been muted?
No, not quite long, not quite long.
Oh, okay. Wow, that was a mistake. Okay, thank you.
So is it Git Bash?
Git Bash actually just download Git. So Git Bash comes with it.
Okay, sir. Okay,
Yes,
sir.
yes. So now we are going to be using Putty, okay? So let me try to launch my Putty. So here's my Putty.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry, Bolu.
What about people that are not using Windows?
Yeah, for Mac OS too. For Mac OS, you just do brew install. If you're using Mac, I think Mac should be something as easy as brew install. It's just a command, brew install Git. You should get it, I think so. Then if you are using CentOS, yeah,
On our, what is it called?
on our command line.
Command line.
Yes, so for we that we are using Ubuntu. So let me try to log into my instance now. So load and then open. So connect once. What? I think I didn't have password enabled for Ubuntu. So I'm gonna restart my instance, new session.